Good morning and welcome to Monday. Thank you for joining me today on the Daily Dose, where each week we take a look at some scriptures we may have read last week or are currently reading this week. Tuesdays is Talk It Out Tuesday, where you can submit your own questions. You can submit them here, you can email me, or you can message me, and I'll be happy to answer your questions on Tuesday. Wednesday, we are doing a thing called Whiteboard Wednesday, where I do a general teaching on some relevant topics and things that help you continue to be productive and efficient in your life and leadership and help you with that. And then, of course, on Thursday, one of my favorite days of the week, Dads with Coffee. And this is where Keith and I just discuss stuff. And sometimes we don't know what we're talking about. Well, maybe a lot of times we don't know. But anyway, we don't always have an agenda. We just show up and we talk about things over coffee, and you get to listen in and make comments and suggestions as well. So, but how are you doing today? How is this Monday treating you? This, of course, is what many people call Passion Week, and that is the last week of the before the crucifixion of Jesus. This week includes the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. So Palm Sunday was yesterday, also known as the triumphal entry, as you're looking through different scriptures. And then we're going to have a series of events this week that lead up to the Lord's Supper, the trial, the crucifixion, and just a very rough weekend until you get to Easter Sunday, and that's where we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Well, today, on this Monday morning, I want to just give a word of encouragement. I was reading through in Exodus, and there in Exodus, you find the Israelites having been freed from Egypt after all of the plagues, and Pharaoh finally decided to release the people. And here you're going to find that the people are between a Red Sea and a hard place, because they have escaped. They've walked up to the Red Sea. And as they are there, they realize they're being chased by the Egyptians. Gripped with fear, Moses encourages the people. And he has a personal illustration in his own life that he can share with them. And I don't know if he does share that with them or not, but I want to read to you what they say. But Moses told the people, "Don't be afraid. Just stand still and watch the Lord rescue you today. The Egyptians you see today will never be seen again. The Lord himself will fight for you. Just stay calm." Now, those 3 or 4 sentences are packed full of things that complicate our day, right? Complicate our day. And it can complicate our day because we may misunderstand or we may misinterpret what's being said. All right, 4 things he says. First of all, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid? What do you mean, don't be afraid? We've got the Red Sea on one side and we've got the Egyptians on the other side. How am I not supposed to be afraid? See, what this comes down to is this. What do you trust? Who do you trust? In what do you trust? What is at the core of your life? Now, this can also be discussed as principle-centered living or, centered living. So often we get pulled in all these different directions, right? But what's at the center of who you are? If that's an ever-changing center, then you're going to have chaos in your life consistently. But if you have chosen a proper, core-centered, principle-centered kind of life, then you're going to find yourself in a much more calm state. And we're going to talk more about principle-centered living on Whiteboard Wednesday, so I invite you to join me back here Wednesday at 8 o'clock as we stand in front of the whiteboard. We learn a few things, and I learn, you learn, we learn together. And so I hope that you'll join me back as we talk more about that. But here Moses is saying, don't be afraid. I mean, isn't that the natural reaction? I mean, don't we all do that? I mean, we come up to this dilemma, this drama, this decision. We come up to these moments of news that you received that is just devastating. How am I not supposed to be afraid for my future? How am I not supposed to be afraid for my kids? How am I not supposed to be afraid? And yet, here Moses says something that seems to be impossible. Don't be afraid. And then he says something else. Stand still. Now, we have been taught, we have taught our kids what? What have we taught them? We've taught them to get busy, get to work, do something productive, be productive. And, we talk about this all the time. However, Moses is here saying, stand still. Now, I want you to understand something. There are times, there are moments where standing still takes more courage than being busy with the anxiety and stress. Now, see, this is what we do, isn't it? Anxiety and stress rise up. And my goodness, have we not had a lot of that over the last 12 months? The anxiety and the stress rise. And what do we do? Well, I know what I do. I pour myself in. I dive in head first. I get busier than ever before. When my stress rises, I get busier. Do you do that? When anxiety rises, I work faster, I work harder, I do more. What am I doing? I'm putting myself as the superlative of the fix here. What I'm saying is I'm at my own center. I'm at my own core. Okay. So standing still is not so much don't move, because right after this passage, God's going to tell Moses, hey, get up, cross, move, do this. But what happens when we get anxious, when we get stressed, when we're filled with fear, we can just be spinning in circles, right? And we think we're busy, and we are busy, but we're not productive. We're not actually getting anything done because we're just spinning out of control. So when God tells Moses and Moses tells the people, and I'm telling you, stand still. What this really is, don't stall out. See, that's what can happen. We can stall out. Don't stall out. See, I think this is a little more internal than it is external, because Moses is going to have them cross the Red Sea. Settle yourself down on the inside. But I can't. Oh, come on, Aaron. Don't you know? Man, you don't know what come on now. We're going to walk through some examples in just a second. See, this is a faith moment. We have them every day. Sometimes we have them multiple times a day. I mean, oh my goodness, if I could just have one a day, right? But sometimes we have multiple moments every day where you have to make a choice. And sometimes we unconsciously, because we're not being intentional in what we're doing, we're not being intentional in our living, we're not being intentional in our choices, so we unconsciously choose fear instead of faith. Choosing faith is an intentional, conscious decision that has to be made. You have to choose faith. It doesn't naturally occur in your life or mine. You have to choose it. Now, over the course of years and maturity, there may be a spiritual muscle memory that happens that helps you to choose faith. But for many of us, it's a choice. You got to choose faith. Fear is our natural response. All the way back to the garden, Adam and Eve, what did they do? They hid. Why? Because they had shame, guilt, and fear. Why? Because of sin in their life. We have sin in our life. We hide out of shame and guilt and fear. We run in fear. We spin out in circles because of fear. And Moses is saying, stand still. Stand still. It's like a 4-year-old hopped up on sugar. They're just vibrating. That's how we get. And Moses saying, look, hey, calm down. Stand still a second and watch for God. Now, that's an action, Don't be afraid, action. Stand still, choice. Watch for God. That's a choice. That's an action. Look for what God is doing in the middle of the moment. Oh, but this moment is absolutely horrible. Look for what God is doing. Look what the Egyptians were doing to them. The Israelites had left. Woo! It's a great day. We're all leaving and robbing them blind as we go. But now they're stuck between the Red Sea and an army. And now fear overwhelms them again. Watch for what God is doing. Look for God in your moment. Look for God in the not just the magnificence. See, we look for God in all the big things. We need to be watching for God in our daily moments. Do you remember Elijah? Do you? God, he stood out. The storm came through, the blowing came through, the fire came through. No, God wasn't in any of that. He was in the still, small voice, almost as if Elijah had to step out of his cave, step to the edge of the cliff, and he had to strain to hear. This is a choice. He's choosing to look for God, and he's choosing to watch for God. Don't miss him because you're looking for the magnificent instead of looking in the moment. Don't miss him. He's there. You've got to watch for. But if I'm overcome with fear, if I am vibrating with anxiety, it's likely I'll miss what God's doing. So here Moses says, don't be afraid, stand still, watch for God, just stay calm. Wow. Now that's a hard thing to do, isn't it? Just stay calm. It reminds me of the song. It's based on Psalm 55:22 and 1 Peter 5:7. Cast your cares upon him. Cast your cares upon him. I mean, Paul would write to the Philippians and basically say the same thing, in everything. Don't be anxious. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer. Turn it over to God. Moses is just putting this into an applicable, understandable, real scenario, right? When have you been caught between a Red Sea and an army? Maybe it's a rock and a hard place for you, but when have you been stuck there? See, Moses had this personal connection here. He was gripped with fear at the burning bush, remember? And God said, hey, by the way, I need you to go do this. Yeah, no, I'm not the guy. Yeah, you are. No, I don't know what to say. Well, this is what you need to say. Okay, but what if they don't believe me? Well, just do this. I don't talk real well. Okay, then take Aaron. No, I just don't want to do it. Moses. Moses is fearful. He's not cantankerous. He's just afraid. He's afraid of what may happen. He's afraid that his life that was in danger might still be in danger. He's afraid to try something new. He's afraid to move out in faith. He's just afraid. But once he makes the decision to trust God, God says, by the way, those who wanted your life are not there any longer. The fear is answered, but only when faith is instigated. You've got to have a sense of faith here. What circumstance grips you with fear today? Where's the line between what you should be doing and what you should be trusting God to do? Are you crossing that line? Let me tell you, I do. I do. I struggle with that line sometimes. Where is the end of what I'm supposed to do and the beginning of what I'm supposed to be trusting God to do? That's a blurry line, and sometimes that's a wide line of blur, right? We don't know. I mean, on the one hand, we don't want to just do nothing. Paul says, don't be idle. Okay, so I need to be doing something. Moses said, cross the river. We have to choose to do some things. What's our responsibility versus what God's responsibility is? What are you trying to control that you really should let God control because you can't? And see, maybe that's a point of reference for us. What are you freaking out over that you can't control anyway? You see, this is where we end up, isn't it? We can't control it, but we desperately want to, but you can't. You can't control it. How many of you check the weather before you go to bed so you know what to wear the next morning? Yeah, I do too. And you know what? Do you get mad if it changes overnight? Oh, I had this perfect outfit set up and now I can't. No, I know that's silly, but I'm telling you, that's an example of how many things we think we have in control, and we love to be in control. Some things you can't control and you've just got to roll with it. But that ain't easy, is it? It's not. What about cancer? Where's the line between what you do and what? See, you can't control that. You got to turn that over and let God have that. You know, I recently went for my 50-year-old video shoot. That's what I like to call it. And I got a report back that it said, you know, you need to come back in for some blood work and we need to take some tests because we don't exactly like what we see. Now, it's not cancer, but there's some markers there that could lead to Crohn's disease. And so we just need to take some extra tests and do some things. Now, it'd be real easy to freak out over that. I've known some people with Crohn's disease. That is not a fun thing to have. Okay. But I can't control that. It's out of my control. Don't be afraid. Stand still. Watch for God. Stay calm. What about a death? You can't control, you can't make life happen forever. Death is going to happen. Death is a real thing. Or divorce, or tragedy, or grief, or drama. Now, drama, I think a lot of times we're responsible for the drama we're facing. We've either stirred it up or we've allowed it to be stirred up and we haven't squashed the drama. And then we freak out and we're vibrating with anxiety and fear. It's like, just settle down. You know why drama happens? James talks about that. James says, you know why there's fights and quarrels among you? Because each of you want your own way and you're not seeking God's way. That's what happens. When you've got this party that wants this and this party that wants that, you know, well, we each want our own way. And a third party may be saying, yeah, but we need to follow God's way. Now everybody's fighting. Why? Well, because we're prideful and sinful and selfish, and we're trying to choose our own way instead of choosing God's way. What about a dilemma, a decision? Now, see, this is a hybrid situation. And we've talked about decision making on this podcast before. Decision making, faith is involved in that. Let me tell you, there's some decisions that we make that we freak out over. Man, we are just stress puppies about. Should we be? I mean, if I'm placing my life in the hands of God, I mean, there's choices I need to make. And I need to be prayerful about that. And I need to be faithful about that. And there's some daily items, these daily things. That's on you. You choose those things. You see, I think we often applaud grit and determination when we need to invoke the Spirit of God. This is essentially what Moses is saying. Look, you can't fix this, nor can you overcome the Egyptian army, nor can you get across this Red Sea. We've got to watch what God can do in this moment. But if we are so busy trying to solve our own problems, we're going to miss God. I don't want you to miss God. I want you to see God at work in your life, in your moment, in your family, in your home. I want you to see God. But then we're going to have to set the fear aside for faith. We're going to have to get off the sugar rush of anxiety and stand still for a moment and watch for God in your moments today. And he can do wonderful things. You guys have a great Monday. If you've got any questions about anything, you can post them here, message me, let me know, and we'll address those tomorrow on Talk It Out Tuesday. Have a great Monday. God be with you. God bless.